The first thing that popped in was expectations, all capital letters, bunch of underlines. There's something about we're at odds with them. I was getting like a rivalry, a rivalry with expectations, but we're at odds with expectations this week. It's less about expectations versus reality and more about there being like the unexpected. Anyone who's watched Big Brother, expect the unexpected. It's that that kind of a feeling. And expectation setting as well. So it's kind of coming from both ways. It depends on your wiring is what's coming through. If you're someone who seeks more control, this week is teaching you a lesson in releasing that control. Because think about what we're talking about here. We have things that are popping up, not what we expected, surprises. And so we are having to adjust, pivot, realign our ducks to get it together. What about the less controlling folks? Does that just mean it's not as applicable, or is the flavor of it different? Yes. So if control isn't your issue, if that isn't a pattern that has arisen for you, either in recent time or throughout your life, then for that subgroup of people, the lesson, it's interesting that these keep coming in as the lesson for the week. So for the other group, the more loosey-goosey group, the lesson is interesting. I'm just seeing somebody like kicking their feet back more. It's like they're in a lounge chair. I would think if you're loosey-goosey, you might already want to be doing that anyway. Oh, okay. So then they're jumping up. Okay, how it's coming across is like even if you're somebody who is more casual and more laid back, these can still get you too, as in catch you off guard as well, like the sense of surprise. And it does feel like it is more of the call to action. It's almost like how I mentioned at the beginning with the expectations is in some ways it's surprises and in other ways it's expectation setting. So if you're in the loosey-goosey group, it feels like you're a little bit more, you can do both. It's like 20% is the surprises and 80% is you having to do the work to reset expectations. So actually applying a little bit more structure. I'm getting something about temperament. So when we have either these surprises or needs to reset, recalibrate our relationships, our systems, situations, parameters, that we inherently are either having some sort of an activation within ourselves, our emotional body, or that we are best to check in with it. Because whenever we have to do any sort of a realignment, it's not just in the earthly sense. Okay, well, now we're going to do this, we're going to do that, here's the next steps, or I'm going to tell this person this, or tell myself that, or whatever. Like those are very tangible, physical, communication based, but then not leaving kind of go what's underneath the underbelly. I just keep seeing it as if there's the physical body and then there's the spiritual emotional body, which is more of like a cloud, like watery fog, and making sure that we link them together. Visual that I'm getting, Peter Pan in that cartoon movie when Peter's trying to pin his shadow, so he's like trying to sew it or like attach it back to him, because they're supposed to be together. So you can think about it like that too. So you have the physical body and then that shadow, but in this case, it's not actually representing a shadow self. It's representing your emotional body, soul, and spirit. And so we don't want to leave that just because we're really focused and we are doing this expectation setting and resetting. So that may involve tending to that emotional, spiritual body, or just, hey, how's it going? Checking in with it. seeing if you need to use that to inform how you are adjusting expectations and setting them and not leaving it in the dust. That's how it's coming across. Huh. All right. Very interesting. So we'll see how the lighting is today. 5 of Pentacles. Oh, not too bad. 5 of Pentacles. So what I was just talking about, it's very earthly. The earth sign in tarot is Pentacles. So that is the energy that we are talking about. It is very earth-based. I did mention at the top of today's class how we are in Capricorn season. That's the cardinal earth sign. When we're talking specifically about 5 of Pentacles, the signature for this card is the scarcity mindset. For anyone who's not familiar, what that means is, do I have enough? Or am I going to receive this or get that? Like it's this feeling of almost a hypervigilance in trying to get by. It's like you don't feel grounded, which is what Earth should feel like. You don't feel secure. It feels off balance and like you are constantly seeking or looking to receive because it feels like a boat with holes in the bottom. Like, the water's just going to rush out, even if that's not true. It's at minimum a perception of that. Again, why it's a mindset. So obviously we're talking about expectations, and what are expectations? Expectations aren't real. The thing that we're doing, the action that we're taking, the adjustments that we're making, those things are real. Conversations, those are tangible things, outcomes of our efforts. But the idea of an expectation, again, it's something completely within your mind. It's not real. It's a thought. It's a mental framing, mental structure. So I do think this actually makes a lot of sense, but it adds an interesting color and variable to the equation of maybe for you that some of the expectations that you have or are setting relate to either money or security in the sense of safety. So this could be about the home or within relationships that you have. Do you feel safe, supported? Like there's a balance that you trust that you will continue to receive what you need from it to sustain yourself, not what you need as in you're trying to suck whatever the thing is dry, but just enough that things are stable. I can relate. I've been thinking about money and how I'm going to afford going back to school and where it's going to come from. I'm seeing a visual of somebody zipping and unzipping over and over and over again. Typically, when I see a zipper or Velcro, that is symbolizing separation, but then it's coming back together. So it feels like a yo-yoing situation or not fully committing to it. It's very wishy-washy. It feels more like a we. Should we do this? Should we not do this? Maybe, maybe not. And it's just kind of going back and forth and back and forth. And it's pretty rapid, honestly. Depending on your situation, it could feel as if it's like an hour by hour, minute by minute. It feels like it's a much smaller unit than days. Mostly front heavy. So you may already be feeling this, that you're in this now. It feels like the portal for it is Monday through Wednesday. Obviously time zone dependent, but that is coming across like it's all inclusive. Thursday through Friday. Feels like we have a lot of energy, like we're bouncing around. We were talking about like a we before, a partnership. Does that mean that the bouncing is what it's us as an individual? Okay, so then what is the other person or part of the equation doing when we're up and bouncing around? They are not relevant. are they not relevant in that we're just not considering them, or that they're just off somewhere else and not involved in the plot at this point? Okay, so that means it's leaving it open to whatever that might mean for you. Either that conversations have stalled and stopped and you're just working on something else, or that this is applying to a different area of life, whatever it is that is energizing you. On Saturday, I'm getting that this person, so they were outside of the plot Thursday through Friday. And then Saturday, they reemerge with a message. Simple as that. And then Sunday, you're coming to a conclusion. So you're coming to the agreement about whatever it is after all the wishy-washiness that was happening at the beginning of the week. And then it's like you had a break where you're feeling inspired and you're kind of off. It's like, I guess it's kind of like an energy reset. You're doing some other things. You're having forward movement, motion, and then they also are doing something within their own plot line. They're doing something separate. And then you're able to come back together and go, okay, this is what we're going to do now. All right, so we have the Magician. As I mentioned before, it came through even before I picked these cards that I was going to be reading a passage. So this is in part describing what's happening with the card, the Magician. It says, by his feet rest his alchemical tools, the elemental vessels of transfiguration. How can I create and manifest from within? Everything that we talk about in tarot, we have the wands, we have the pentacles, we have the cups, we have the swords. These are the 4 suits. So he has the different tools, basically everything at his disposal. And then another thing to always mention with this is it's like he has a starry sky around his head. So there's a connection through the cosmos, and then there's all of the tools and resources at his feet. And then what was it about manifesting? So if we're asking ourselves that question of what is it that we can manifest? How can I create and manifest from within? What this is bringing me to is what we were discussing for Thursday, Friday. Because Thursday, Friday, it's like we're on a different plane. It's like we are connected to this higher vibrational energy because we're so upbeat and energized. It's like we're in a flow state. And when you're in a flow state, that's often when information is dropping in or things are just coming together and working out. And then that kind of fuels it. We're like, oh, this is awesome. Like I found a spot right out front at the place that I was going, or I had this idea, I ran into this person. And then it almost continues that energy rolling and going, and more connections are happening because of what we're connected to. So that does feel like the energy of that Thursday, Friday. And I just keep getting brought back to, again, this piece about, but he has all the tools. So if you have all the tools and have all the resources, it's like on that Thursday, Friday, because you are connecting to your potential and the potential of what is out there. Then when this person returns and comes to you and is like, hey, I have this information, it's like your confidence, your sense of self-efficacy just shot up. So then it makes it easier to actually come to whatever that conclusion is when you're doing that on Sunday. So in part, what's happening is like you are different. Like you're changing within the week. You are having like a little bit of an up level, a little bit of a boost during this week, because then you're no longer in that state anymore of indecision or things being inconclusive, more wishy-washy. You have more of the clarity. So then whatever information they're presenting, you're like, okay, you're just, again, you're coming at it from a different perspective and lens. And specifically in getting more optimistic, not blindly optimistic, not ignoring reality and what's practical, but that You're believing in more of what is possible. For reading number 1, the main message that came in, all caps, underline, was expectations. For this week, you will slot into one of two groups. Group number 1 is the people who have a past, lifelong or within the last year or so, of seeking control. And for these people, you are being asked to release that control because there's going to be surprises that are popping up that are defying your expectations. And then we have group number 2, and this is the loosey-goosey folk that are much more laid back, much more casual. And for you, we have 20% of your lesson this week is, oh, there's still surprises. So you're still catching strays from the surprises. But the 80% is that you are being asked to set more expectations, to establish more structure. Regardless if it's a surprise and something is coming up, just in general, like how can you reset your expectation with yourself and with others? So that's what we're working on this week. And the reminder is, as we're doing this very communication and physical world, earthy work, that we cannot forget about our emotional and soul body. So the visual that I had was Peter Pan, we are the person, and then we have the shadow, in this case, the emotional spiritual body that we need to make sure is attached. He's sewing his shadow onto his shoes. We need to make sure that they are staying connected, that we aren't having our shadow run off. We're not paying any attention to it. We're not paying any attention to what's going on with our emotions, what's going on with our sense of self, authenticity, trust. And that we also can use that to inform the expectations that we are setting, that we are putting out there. How am I doing? How am I feeling about what's going on here? Let's check in with that. Let's not just only be in action and physical world mode. So the card that we had was, fittingly, the Five of Pentacles, which is about the scarcity mindset. Pentacles is the earth sign, and it relates to money, resources as well. And so what I had talked about in this reading is expectations are, if not a mindset, what else? There's something that we are creating. It's not something you can say, I am picking up an expectation. It's not tangible. So we are doing work in the mind space this week, but then needing to connect it and ground it, because with a scarcity mindset, we don't feel secure, we don't feel safe. So that may mean for you that either some of the surprises that are coming up or the expectations that you need to set with yourself or others are tied to scarcity, in that how can you make yourself be more secure? Either literally or in your own mind. What are things you could put in place, conversations that you can have, adjustments that you could make, tending to that shadow, that emotional body, spiritual body, so that you can feel more grounded, pentacles, and secure. For a second reading, the visual that I was seeing was a zipper going up and down, up and down, up and down. There was a feeling of we, so this is you and at least one other person. There's a wishy-washiness to making a commitment, deciding something to move forward or not move forward, or what should we do or not. And this is happening from Monday to Wednesday of this week. Then we have a pivot. Thursday and Friday, it's like you're off on your own. Whoever this person is or these other people are, they are irrelevant to the plot. Because Thursday and Friday, it's you are acting, living, existing on a higher vibrational energy. You're more in a flow state. Your energy is up. You're feeling inspired. Things are coming together. Then we get to Saturday, and Saturday, this other party is returning and they have some sort of a message. And then Sunday, you are coming to that conclusion. So whatever that commitment is that you couldn't make at the beginning of the week, a decision is made by Sunday. The card that we had was the Magician. And I was called to read a specific passage from the guidebook. And essentially what they were talking about is paying attention to the resources, the tools. So these are all the suits of tarot at the magician's feet. So it's like you have all of the resources. And then we're thinking about what we can manifest, what can we create from within, from our sense of self, from that inspired action. So this is the cosmos around his head. And that brings us back to that portal of the Thursday, Friday energy, where we were in an abundance mindset, opposite of reading one. We were in an abundance mindset. We're feeling really connected. Things are flowing. We have everything that we need. And we're therefore feeling brighter, lighter, more optimistic. So when we have gone through that transformation on that Thursday, Friday, it's like we are becoming a different version of ourselves by the end of the week. So then when this person is returning and has whatever this new information is, we can come at it from a different angle, a more optimistic perspective, and it aids us in being able to make the decision because we have a stronger belief in what is possible. Do you feel scarcity? Are you encountering anything that's triggering feelings of scarcity? That's reading number one. And if not, if you are maybe feeling a little confused or uncertain, that's different than lacking a feeling of a foundation or stability. And then you very clearly feel super empowered, super connected, big perspective shift. That's reading number two. So that's how the plot lines are going to differ. But as I was mentioning, like there is a through line with both of these of some things kind of hanging in the air, because reading number two, it's like, okay, it's wishy-washy. What do? I don't know what to do. And then the first one, it's like, why is this happening? This thing is coming up. I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't prepared for that. And so we're all thrown off our game, if you will, in some way and for different reasons. And it presents in different ways. If you were somebody who is at the intersection of the two, let's think about this. I am getting that this very easily could happen in two different areas of life. So let's say you have a situation where you are dealing with somebody. I'll just throw out, what if it's something in a relationship? You're trying to decide about moving or not. We'll just pick that example. So for reading number two, you're like, okay, you're thinking about moving. You're wishy-washy, can't decide, blah, blah, blah. You go off Thursday, Friday, you have your own adventure, totally unrelated to looking for a house or thinking about moving. And then this person comes to you and maybe they're like, hey, I talked to somebody, blah, 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 about this neighborhood. Or this thing came up and I don't know. Like, again, you could play out a whole storyline. And that's in a certain area and areas of life. And if you were someone who was simultaneously in reading number one, then the surprise is like, again, this splinters off because you could be a control person. So it means you're dealing with more surprises, but maybe you're not. Maybe you're the loosey-goosey person. So we have all of these variants, especially if you're in both readings. So let's say that in this example, you're the loosey-goosey person. So you need to set more expectations. Then maybe something that you're learning throughout this week. And as a result of that little up level Thursday, Friday, is you're like, you know what? I really should be stating more clearly what it is that I want, what my expectations are for moving. You know what? I don't want to live here forever. I want to live in a certain type of climate or whatever it is. So it could be that some of your expectations, again, are informing how you're talking to people, if that is what's going on with the other situation where you're in collaboration, you're needing to decide something, and your expectations are about your lifestyle or how you want to be spending your time or how you want to be communicating with them, then they could really easily slot and fit into each other. So this feels like this is a whole little puzzle, and you definitely could be in both. And they don't have to be. I gave in this example that we had a relationship, we had a moving, and then we had something else going on. You could have even more. I actually chose like this simpler combination of the two by having the loosey-goosey person. But if you were a control person in that situation, then it's like, okay, well, what the surprises could be, okay, you have something that pops up with your job, you have something that pops up with your family, you have something that pops up with your health that could feel completely unrelated, if you will, to this whole house journey. So just looking quickly at the visuals here, obviously something that's in common. We have pentacles, and then we have a pentacle because the magician has all of the tools here. They do look different. Of course, this one is brighter, and again, it's because there's more optimism, there's more connection. He is in a full cloak. She is without clothes. She is bare. So there is more of a, again, he's more grounded, secure, supported, also lit up. And then it's like more of a raw, exposed in the light of the moon. So everything is seen, everything is visible, versus he can just kind of have some of his peace and just be sitting there all comfy and cozy in his big cloak and blanket. There are lessons, there are things that we are adjusting this week. So for the first reading, regardless of if you are more or less on the controlling end of the spectrum, you had a specific lesson that came through. It came in as lesson, lesson, lesson. And then for this one, we do also have a transformation by the end of the week. So that's another common thread. The second reading, we had much more of a clear storyline. It was like, oh, on these certain days, certain things are popping up or happening, versus the first one was much more fluid, much more variable, which I do think lends itself to, if you are someone who is in a bit of both, then you have the structured timeline, and then this one can just slot over it or into it in some capacity. So this is more of a singular focus, even though energetically we are connected to more. Versus this could be, this is happening, now that's happening, and now I have to change this, now I have to adjust that, etc. So that's another great way of distinguishing if it's more streamlined, more narrowed in focus, except more expansive in nature. And then this is, it could be kind of anything, and it's just popping up, popping in a bunch of different areas. Or if we need to be someone who's resetting expectations, you're resetting here, you're resetting there, you're establishing there. So you're bopping around more with this one. And this can be across multiple areas of life.